Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as ETCG1 on this here channel. And on ETCG1 we talk about stuff, we don't do repair videos. If you want repair videos, head on over to Eric the Car Guy and check some of those out. There's plenty over there to choose from. But here, we're just gonna talk about stuff. Today, well, we're back once again with the flat rate system. And this one stems from an article that I read last week about a lawsuit that was brought against, I think it was a Mercedes dealership in California. And there was a group of technicians who were, I believe, suing the dealership over time that they weren't getting paid for. And just to give you a little backstory, flat rate is how many technicians get paid. So if you're looking to be an automotive technician, it's very likely that you'll end up with a flat rate pay scale. And what that means is for every job you do, like say you do a brake job or an oil change or just about any component replacement or whatever, there's a labor guide that covers the time that it should take you to perform that procedure. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, a brake pad replacement on a given vehicle bills a half an hour. So you go in and you replace the brake pads and it takes you 20 minutes. You get it all back together, you get it out the door, you flag that half an hour on the back of that work order, and you just got paid a half an hour for 20 minutes worth of work. Yay you. So you just made 10 minutes worth of time. Flip side to this is, say a car comes in and you need to do the brakes, but you wind up with some kind of complication. Maybe somebody stripped one of the bolts off, or maybe there is a lot of rust. And instead of taking you 20 minutes, it takes you an hour. But you still bill for the half hour. So you just lost on that job. And that's kind of the way mechanics get paid. And lately, at least, when I left the dealership about 5-6 years ago, there was a lot of warranty work. In fact, that's mostly what people were bringing their vehicles to the dealership for. They weren't bringing them in so much for service anymore because the service intervals had been extended. We've talked about this in other videos. We've also talked about the flat rate system in other videos. So a lot of things contributed to more warranty work coming in the door. So the bulk of your paycheck is now dependent upon that warranty work. Well, warranty work is very strict about the time that they pay you. And a lot of that is because, they don't expect to see rust in the amount of time that a normal warranty period would last. I mean, some last up to 10 years, that kind of thing. Not real sure how all that plays out, but for the most part, they're not expecting those repairs to have complications. So they're pretty on the level, on the line about, we're gonna pay you X amount to do X job, and that's that. The problem comes in when you go to do the job, you do the job, and say you complete it say they give you a half an hour to do the job, and you complete it within that half an hour. Well, you broke even, great. But now, you've got to go look up the labor operation, which there's a given number for what you just did, perhaps, that you've got to look up, and you've got to put that on the work order. Then you have to write it up in the work order so that the warranty claim can be submitted. There's a paper trail that needs to go with all the warranty stuff, because in essence, you're billing the manufacturer. The dealership is billing the manufacturer for that time, for that job. So the manufacturer is covering the cost of that repair because it's warranty. But the dealer still has to get money from the manufacturer to do that. In order to do that, you have to go through certain protocols. You have to write it up, sometimes very detailed explanations, sometimes just a number on the back of the work order. It really depends. So if you find yourself in a place where the repair had complications, similar to what I described, where there was a rounded off fastener or some other issue that cost you more time in the process, then you ask for what's called straight time. And good luck getting it in many cases, because you really have to cross your T's and dot your I's in order to get that kind of stuff. I was very fortunate to have a service rep, the guy who's goes around and basically signs off on this stuff. He goes from dealership to dealership. He's sort of he's a manufacturer rep that comes around to the dealership on a regular basis and looks over things like this to help you out, that kind of thing. I had a good relationship with him, so he knew that I was on the level and he didn't give me too much trouble. But there are other dealerships where that's not the case. And what this equates to is the time you spend not doing the repair but filling out paperwork, doing other things you need to do, waiting for parts, If you have, I was fortunate to have 2 lifts when I worked at the dealership, but a lot of guys just have 1 lift to work off of. And if you've got something that you're doing that's gonna basically make it so you can't drive that car and you've got to wait for parts, that means you are doing nothing during that time that you're waiting on a part or waiting on a okay or waiting on the manufacturer to call you back or something like that. So you're standing there dead in the water and you can't do any more work. So you're spending all this time and effort to please the manufacturer, to represent the manufacturer, to take care of their warranty issues, yet you're not being paid for that extra time. So you're unable to make more money and you're stuck in that situation. So this lawsuit in California, I believe, is a result of this type of thing. So they said, you know, hey, wait a minute, you got to pay us an hourly wage that's at least equivalent to minimum wage. So they calculated it all up and they figured out that they were losing money. You know, they were losing money off of their base salary based on the numbers that they figured up. So they were spending a lot of time doing things that weren't necessarily related to the repair that they weren't getting paid for. Hence the reason they brought this lawsuit up. Now, I was kind of like, yay, maybe the end of the flat rate system when I posted a link to this on my Facebook page. And I'll post a link in the description to the article that I'm referring to so that you can read it for yourself. But there was, I believe, an attorney who came back and responded and said, no, what's going to happen is the dealership will look at that and say, okay, well, if all we've got to do is pay you minimum wage, we've just got to work out the hourly stuff, and that's basically what they're going to do. So in other words, the dealership would find a way to cut salaries, to cut whatever, you know, in order to pay them pretty much the same or even less. And that was his concern, and it's a valid concern. You know, and then I got a little inflated at that point because a lot of you have come to me and you've talked about how difficult it is to work within the flat rate system. And I agree with you. However, you can make a good living working flat rate. You can, and you can do it honestly. You bust your butt, but you know, it's a tricky game. In fact, I've always said that mechanics are more like subcontractors than they are employees. You have to purchase your own tools and you're basically contracted out, like I said in the case of this warranty work, that you're going to get paid X amount to do this job. So it's almost like you're being contracted out to do all this stuff. But yet you're responsible for all your tool expenses and sometimes education and certifications, just depends on where you work. So I can't make generalizations as far as that's concerned, but that's basically the premise of what's going on, what's coming down the pike. So if the flat rate system goes away at this particular dealership and it like really jacks up California's labor laws and all that, you know, it's kind of one of those things that if it goes a certain way, it can have a ripple effect across a lot of other professions besides auto mechanics. It could affect people in other industries like, say, hair. You know, people who cut hair, people who do that type of thing. You know, a lot of different industries would be affected by a ruling on this particular case. So, we're all about discussions here at ETCG1. Read the article. Hear what I've had to say about the flat rate and basically how it works. And I'd love to hear your opinions because it seems to me, like I said, many of you have come to me and you've said, Eric, the flat rate system is killing me. I can't make a living. It's, you know, I'm making way less than I would make if I was working as a fry cook at McDonald's. Sad but true. And they may have better insurance at McDonald's. It's the crazy thing. I guess it comes down to, I've got also a lot of enthusiastic people coming to me and say, Eric, I'm going to school to be a mechanic. I can't wait to get into it. You know, what advice can you give me? You know, and I try to provide that advice. But here's something to think about. You know, if you're going to get in the dealership situation, you don't do warranty work in an independent shop. You basically, you know, you have comebacks, like say for instance you repaired something and it didn't work out. You know, maybe the part you put on failed or something. You got to deal with things like that, but it's not like this warranty thing that manufacturer and dealership have to work out with you in the middle. Dealership's not going to pay for it, manufacturer's not going to pay for it. You're in the middle. So what are your thoughts? I mean, is the flat rate system still a viable system? Because you can, and there are some of you also that come to me and say, Eric, I don't know what everybody's talking about. I'm making a great living on flat rate. Well, you know what? You probably got work. And that's another video. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. I'd love to hear what your experiences are and how you feel about this. I mean, are you spending an inordinate amount of time doing paperwork and research and waiting for parts and doing other things that you're not getting paid for, that is in essence taking money out of your pocket? And how does your dealership deal with that, if they deal with it at all? Or do you just suck it up and say, well, I'll make it up on the next service? I mean, how are you coping with this? And what do you think about this case in California, and how would it affect you if you were on more of an hourly / commission based, or, you know, and there's a discussion about this over there at the Car Guy. I'll post a link in the description to that. And some people have come up with some very good solutions, I think, to this. But a lawsuit that messes with the labor laws of the state of California, how can that affect the rest of us? And how is that gonna trickle down to the rest of the labor industry in California, and not just California? If this sets a precedent, what is gonna happen to the rest of the US and the mechanics in the US and how they get paid? I'd love to know your thoughts, so please feel free to share them. You can always find me over at ericthecarguy.com if you have automotive questions. A couple of keywords into the search function at the top of the page. That doesn't work out for you, sign up for a forum, absolutely free. Plus you get my newsletter at the end of the month. All you need is an email address for that. You just sign up, put in your email address. Just be sure to respond to the confirmation email. If not, you're not gonna be able to sign in, you'll have issues. In addition to that, you can always find me at Google+, Facebook, and Twitter if you wish to connect with me socially. And I close each of my videos with be safe, have fun, and of course, stay dirty. Food for thought. Love to hear yours.